Hey there, Streakers. How are you today? Hopefully having a wonderful, fantastic day whenever you're listening to this. Jami and I are looking forward to talking with you today about the subject of because I am streaking. We had an opportunity to talk to a lot of different streakers and ask them the question, what is it that you've had in life or you've benefited in life because you are streaking? And that's what we're going to discuss today. So let's get streaking.
Yay! I need to find a better way to be like, yeah, let's get streaking. Let's do this.
A better way than what you have right now?
Yes, then woo-woo. Welcome. We're excited.
We're so glad to have you.
Actually, I am really excited to talk about this today because this was my idea.
This was
actually.
Yeah, it was, actually.
And so I'm excited to talk about. And it was a little bit, it was kind of, I don't know if tender is the right word, but it was really neat to listen to the answers that people gave about.
So we've been at streaking for 7.5 years, you and I both. Mm-hmm. We started, or actually, you know what? It's going to be 8 years in March.
You're right. So we've been at this for almost 8 years.
For 8 years, we've been at streaking for 8 years. Our podcast is 2 years old. Mm-hmm. So we've been at the podcast for 2 years. The book that you see behind you is about 2 years old. Mm-hmm. And all of this has led to fantastic streaking app, which we have as well. And one of the questions that leads to this, because I'm streaking, is one that you and I ask quite often, and that is, if we didn't have the streaking app, because oftentimes a lot of our conversation or what we look at will refer back to the app or the business itself.
Or if we weren't doing this, if everything that we're doing in terms of the business and the app went away,
right? Would we still be streakers? Would we still be streaking? And it's an unequivocal yes.
Yes. In fact, I was thinking this morning, I thought anytime I need to add something to my life or that I'm looking at and thinking I need to do this better, it revolves around a streak in some way.
Yeah.
It's become a way of how I do my what's.
How you do what you do.
Yeah. So of course it would stay.
It would.
No matter what. However, I would be deeply sad if the app went away because it really helps me to be able to facilitate keeping track of my streaks very easily. The other thing that has been such a fun thing that has happened with the app from where I stood, the original purpose for the app for me was to simply keep track of my streaks.
Well, you were the one that really pushed it as far as the app was concerned when we were talking about it because
it's
and
efficient,
we've talked about it
and
before,
I wanted
and
a
if you've
level
listened
of
to
efficiency.
us, you know we've used calendars and spreadsheets and everything else, but you're like, we really need an app.
Right. But the thing that has really become amazing with the app is the interconnectivity of the community.
Yeah, man, it's
being
so
able
amazing
to see the posts that people put. And the reason that I love the posts is because they are connected to things that normally people wouldn't think to post about. So one of my favorites this morning was an empty vitamin bottle.
Yeah.
And the caption was, "This bottle is empty."
It's so great.
Because the streak is to take your vitamin, at least one vitamin a day, I believe was her streak.
Yeah.
And so just to see, I love the simplicity of the posts. Sometimes we get posts that I think are a little less simple, like the cold plunge.
Yeah, that's laughably simple for someone, but not for me.
That one's not as laughably simple for me, and those are amazing posts. But I love those too. But I love that every post on the app is associated with something someone has done.
Yeah.
And that they wanted to post that they're proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is, they're proud of that thing that they've done.
As I look at the whole topic that we have today, because I am streaking, I am inspired by what people post because, and I referenced this in our meeting that we were having, the intro to the wide world of sports. So if you remember this at all, the wide world of sports is the what is it? The agony of defeat and the thrill of victory.
The thrill of victory.
The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And it shows just this awful crash that this person has off the long jump for skiing. Mm-hmm. But then also, all these champions winning. And I think of that. And as I watch those particular commercials, they're
the extremes.
They're the extremes, and I'm awestruck by them. But I'm not necessarily inspired to go out and to work for that. Now, some people may be, but I'm not necessarily inspired to get on a ski jump or to, really work hard in order to be in the Olympics. Now, there are people who have, and I think that those people are, I'm avoiding using the word inspiring because it's not, when I look at inspiring, they are inspiring, but I'm not necessarily inspired to go out and start doing
You're
something.
right.
Does
There's
that
a
make
different
sense?
level of inspiration because you can watch people who are extremely disciplined in their craft are inspiring because you know the level of discipline that it's taken to get to where they are.
Right.
And especially if you've ever been involved in what they're doing, you know at an even more intimate level how the closer you get to being good at something, the more minute the changes are to continue to improve.
Right,
And the smaller the level of improvement, like a huge amount of effort for a very tiny little tweak of improvement.
Right.
And there's not a lot of us that are willing to continue at that level.
Yeah.
And so that's inspiring. There's a different kind of inspiring that I feel like you're talking about with the app. And that's a little bit more of an inspiring that you read what people are doing and you see in a streak that they have. And there are many, many times that I think, oh, that's really good. I could do that.
There.
I think that's the difference.
That's the words right there. I could do that.
I could do that.
It's one of the reasons why I love the adopting something is because it's like, I can adopt that.
You're right.
I can do that.
So it's a different kind of inspiration. The inspiration to see somebody be amazing at their craft or sport or is inspiring because you appreciate the level of work that they've done.
Right.
Being inspired
Does
as
it
we look
inspire
at
you to action though?
It inspires me to appreciate that what they've done.
Right. It does to me too. I
Because
mean,
there's
inspiring.
not a lot of those things that I'm looking at and thinking, oh, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to be an outdoors,
Right.
I'm not going to be skiing. I'm not going to
You're
be.
not going to be an Olympic marathoner.
No, I'm not going to be. No. But watching, so we've talked about Eliud Kipchoge. Watching him run is inspiring and
true.
I can just be massively amazed at the level of discipline and skill and intentionality that he has put behind what he's able to do.
Yeah.
But that is a very different level of inspiration. And I think it's important and it has its place. I want people that...
I agree.
It is inspiring
Well,
to
and
think
you
the
may
human being
start
can
with
do that.
streaking with your Laughably Simple. For example, our concert pianist started with playing at least one note a
Exactly.
day.
All of these people started at the beginning somewhere.
Right.
Whatever age they were, they started at the beginning and then they've just kept going and going and going. And so that's but when we look at the app and what people are doing, it is a different kind of inspiration because there are more often times that I look at something and think, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate they're doing it, but I also recognize and think that's something I could do.
I could do.
Maybe I want to do that.
So it gives you a level of confidence that I don't have the confidence that I can go out and do those amazing things that I see some of the world's elite do, but I can have the confidence that I can start to do some of these
smaller things that, yes.
Because I know as we look at it, there's a lot of younger streakers that are in the app and you see what they're starting to do.
Yes.
And how they're starting. And I thought, they keep going with this and that will get them to another level of elitism, but they have built a floor and they can stand on that floor to really reach for some of the different goals that they may have in life. So as we talk about that and think about it, because I'm streaking, that's one of the things that I brought up. Because I'm streaking, I see a level of confidence that I haven't previously seen and found. And I've enjoyed accomplishing things that I didn't ever think I could accomplish.
Right.
Because I'm streaking.
Right. And that ties into one of the answers, and I thought this was fun too, is he said, because I am streaking, I have more courage. And it was actually in relation to a Duolingo streak that he had kept that streak alive. And he said, because of that, now I have more courage to try the language out on people.
Right.
And I'm learning more because I'm saying something. And that's one of the things that I do love about streaking is that you start off with the laughably simple of I'm just going to, open the Duolingo app. That's probably what the streak is, or do one word in Duolingo. But as you are consistent in doing that, and you've been doing it for several days in a row, sometimes hundreds of days in a row, because you're doing it every day, it changes the way that you think about that thing. It's become a part of your life. And now you start to think about it in other times and you recognize, oh, they're speaking Spanish. I could maybe say something to them. And you try it. So you do something that maybe you wouldn't have felt, like you said, as confident to do. Mm-hmm. But because you've been practicing and you get a little bit more courage.
Yeah.
And you think, I'm gonna try this other thing that maybe I wouldn't have had the courage to try before. And I think the other thing is that how much courage do you need? Just a little bit, because you've been practicing
just
small
touch.
And simple. You've developed a little bit of a mindset of, well, it doesn't have to be huge. I could just say hi, or I could even say something like, I'm learning Spanish. Exactly.
Will you help?
But
or I'm learning Italian,
mindset,
or I'm learning French, whatever it is, whatever language you're learning. But the mindset is, I have courage to try this.
To do this little thing and see where it goes.
Yeah. As you look at courage, that comes, I think it's a close cousin to confidence. Mm-hmm. And as you have courage and confidence together, those two things help propel you further in your particular objective to who you want to become and who you want to be.
Yep.
Which led us to another answer, which was, because you are streaking, what has been some of the benefits in your life? Order and structure.
Yes.
So have you found that? I mean, order and structure?
Totally.
In what ways? What are you thinking as far as order and structure is concerned?
And this person too, she said order and structure and I believe this was, if I'm remembering right, this person had small children.
Right.
And so when you have small children, order and structure are both vital and fleeting at the same time. To try and be a parent of small children without some level of structure is chaos.
Yeah.
But if you are seeking for a certain level of structure with small children, it's going to be frustration. So it's this constant balancing act.
Yeah.
Because children are small. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like what she was saying is that streaking has given me this ability to manage that balancing act, to recognize that structure is important and I can have structure, but also that patience that comes along with having small children that are constantly in a state of disrupting structure.
You've often
and it
talked
gave her
about
a place to do these things that were important to her that sometimes fall away when you have small children.
So you have often talked about, as you've raised our children, that you have to have a level of flexibility. Mm-hmm. That you can make a schedule, but at any point in time, that schedule can be interrupted. And therefore, you have to always have some level of flexibility.
Yes.
Which, as you look at that level of flexibility, can interrupt a lot of different routines that you might have. And if you didn't have that flexibility, you could get very frustrated.
Very frustrated.
I mean, there have been times, I know there have, when you've been frustrated because you had a schedule all laid out and it got blown completely to bits.
Yes. Yesterday I wasn't frustrated, but yesterday was a prime example that I had a very busy day.
I loved yesterday.
I had a very busy day scheduled, and then it was a snow day, and everything that was on that schedule and that plan for the day went out the window. And now all of a sudden we're like, oh, we're staying home. We're not doing any of the stuff we thought.
Right.
And so
just for you, has streaking helped you in, I mean, as you look back now, had you had streaking with smaller children, would it have helped with some of the frustration that comes along with the flexibility in your schedule? Here's
what streaking would have done for me with small children is, one, it would have given me the ability to be consistent in things that seemed overwhelming, because I could have done small things regularly.
Wait, we got to pause right there. You always come up with these gems. I mean, these are just absolute gems. Do you realize what you just said?
What did I say?
It gives me the ability to be consistent in areas that are overwhelming. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could be easily overwhelmed, but what I hear you saying is streaking would have helped me to not be overwhelmed.
Yes, it would have helped me. Yes, because it would have helped me to see, and I see this in the young moms.
I mean, you got to take that in. That's a real gem right there.
Well, I see it in the young moms that are streaking, that because they are being given permission to do something laughably simple, you just do it and you move on instead of painting this grand picture of what it needs to be. Because raising children is such an interesting thing to do, because your ultimate mission is huge. You want to raise a human being that is honest and good,
a responsible
and
citizen of the nation in which they live,
who goes off and makes great decisions and contributes, and like that's an awesome responsibility. And most of the time you're doing it before you know what the heck you're doing yourself. You've been given this charge to be like, hey,
wait a second, hold on,
lead the charge, and you don't know a lot what you're doing.
Stop right there. So they do not give you an instruction manual with the baby as you leave the hospital?
No.
Really?
And the instruction manuals that you do get, the self-help books, can be sometimes they can be helpful, but they can also be very difficult. I remember reading the first book that I read on potty training, and I thought that I knew exactly how to potty train.
By reading the book?
By reading the book. I had a plan. I had purchased all of the necessary equipment. I knew exactly how this was going to go. Streakers,
I remember this day as if it was yesterday, because it was our oldest child now who is graduating law school.
Yes.
And Megan. And I remember, because it was potty training a day.
Yes.
That was the book.
And I had read the book, and I was just, it is one of the few times that I look back and by the end of that day, I thought, I can understand how people abuse their children. Like, I'm not going to be so harsh on them, because it was the most infuriating, frustrating thing in my whole life. And so the books, the instruction manuals that you do get, and I've had some that are helpful, but sometimes it can be like, yeah, that maybe worked for you, but that did not work for me. So streaking would have given me the opportunity to recognize that I'm making small movements towards a very huge end goal of raising a child. Okay, so we got to go down this path a little bit more, because this is some really good information that I love hearing from you. And that is, so if you were to go back and tell yourself, okay, here's streaking. All right, what recommendations would you give as far as streaks to set that you would have as a young mom? Would you what would you go back? Now, while you're thinking about that, I think one that you would tell yourself is the streak of read to your children at least one sentence or 5 sentences every day. And I think you would say, please do that streak. Totally. But what's great about it is that when you're raising small children and they're in elementary school, what you hear again and again and again is you need to read to your children. In fact, I remember going to one school where there was an opening, I don't know what it was. The principal was giving a opening lecture. Ceremony, wasn't it? It was something. Yeah. Opening ceremony doesn't sound right for a school, but it was some kind of opening meeting. And the principal read all of these statistics of children that end up in prison because they haven't been read to. And I know she was trying to help. Every mother in there walked out being like, goodness. I'm the worst person on this earth. And what do you walk away leaving, I have to read to my children so they don't end up in prison. Just the concept is like, I have to do a lot. Like there's a lot I need to do, and I've got to, because it preys on your fears as a mom anyway. Anyway, the thing that I love about streaking is that it would be, look, just today, all you have to do is read 5 sentences. Just today, read 5 sentences. Just today, read 5 sentences. How many days in a row, if I just read 5 sentences, am I reading to my children? I am still reading to my children every day. Yeah. Even if all I got was 5 sentences for weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. As a mom of young children, that can be so invaluable to feel like I'm being successful. You stop having this amorphous thing of read to your children that can mean like so many different things. Because really, I should be reading them the classics, and I should be reading this, and you go big. Mm-hmm. But to know that I'm being successful, to look back at a time that would be like you could look and think, oh, this whole week we've had the flu. Our kids have been sick this whole week, but I've read to them every day. Yeah. That kind of success is invaluable as a young mom. Like truly, it's amazing. The other thing that I think and that I heard from the person that commented on this, both of the moms that were commenting on this, actually all the moms, the things that I saw was one of them was, because I am streaking, I am praying for gentleness and long suffering. And she talked about how each day her prayer is different in who she needs to be gentle towards and who she needs to have long suffering towards, but also in relation to being more patient with her children.
Yeah.
That would have been, that's a great thing to do as a young mom. Another one that I loved is in setting your streaks, having the ability to have streaks that continue to build your own personal interests. It may be small in the moment, but one of the things that's really hard when you have young children is feeling like a person, like you're an actual person.
What do you mean by that?
You spend your whole life cleaning up other people's messes, fixing food, doing laundry, all the next day to wake up and have all those same things be undone, sometimes within the same hour. And so you can spend an entire day doing something that at the end of the day, there's very little physical proof that you spent the day working really hard. And then also you spend a lot of time listening to your children and listening to the different things that are happening. You don't spend, when you have young children, you don't spend a lot of time developing a lot of talents and interests in yourself. And being able to have a streak where I'm just going to read a paragraph in a nonfiction book, just something to remind yourself that not everything is going to be Cheerios and spilt milk, that eventually there's other things out there and you're still participating in that world in some small way, even though at this time in life, your world is much more in the Cheerios and spilt milk area. But so it just helps be able to keep a level of sanity and hope and times of reprieve, I think. Anyway,
I think that's beautiful. I just love listening to you talk about that because it goes back to what you said. It can make something that is overwhelming be possible. I mean, this whole overwhelming idea of raising children and adding into that, raising children, self and personal development, professional development, all of those different areas can be so overwhelming. Yet, if you break it down into a streak and just say, how many days in a row can I do this laughably simple thing? What then happens is through time, because I'm streaking, there's days where I can do a lot of it and days that I do the floor of it.
Yep.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
And it's the realization. There was there's a streaker on the app that has a streak of doing, let's see here, they just posted on this about write 100 words a day. Now, I suppose that this particular individual is in writing of some sort. It's their profession or whatever.
Or obviously loves writing.
Yeah, loves writing. And 100 words, just to give a little bit of perspective, if you love writing, 100 words is about a paragraph. I mean, It's not much.
Oh, okay.
No, it's maybe paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs.
Okay.
It's really interesting. You can get to 100 words pretty quickly.
Okay.
So now, and my streak is to write at least one sentence daily. So that's my streak. But this one, so this just got posted in the app. So grateful for this app, meaning the Streaking app. Went from writing a few hundred words every now and then to averaging 1,000 plus words a day. So obviously individual, but look, this is their profession, and they're saying make a laughably simple floor, because there will be the days where they're like, I'm only getting 100 words out, and that's all there is to it.
Right.
And so this overwhelming, this huge, massive opportunity now becomes a doable task or a doable activity because I can do at least 100 words a day.
And the amazing thing is that the success is in the 100 words, not in, did you write 100 good words? Do your words make sense?
Right.
Did you write something decent? Like, is anybody going to want to read it? All of those questions that I think we ask ourselves when we start something.
Right.
You're not asking yourself any of those questions. You're just saying, can I write 100 words today? And how many days in a row can I do that? And the rest of it takes care of itself.
Yeah.
It takes away that pressure of having to write something really good every time you put pen to paper.
Right.
Or every time you start typing, that feeling of like, oh, it's got to be good. What am I going to write? I want to write something good.
Whereas now, you know that you wrote yesterday, you're going to write today, and you're going to write tomorrow, and that from that, something good will come.
The odds are in your favor that if you're doing it every day,
may the odds
something
be ever in your favor.
Something good is going to come out of that. And that's what's amazing.
Right.
That's
it is absolutely amazing.
One of our other streakers, one of his comments was that before streaking, he said, I would intensely focus on one thing. Like I would just super hyper focus, I think is what he said. I would hyper focus on that thing and then he goes, and then I would burn out and not do it again. And he gave the example of training for a marathon in 3 weeks and then not running for 2 years afterwards.
Yeah. Being done with it.
Just being done with it. And I thought, and so he said, streaking has given me the ability to focus on a lot of things over a prolonged period of time. Which also goes back to another person that had said, streaking has given me the opportunity to embrace slow growth, which we've talked about that a bit with the mindset.
Yeah, with how the mindset is, and as far as what growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and being able to allow yourself to grow in that arena.
Yep.
The other area, because I am streaking, health and wellness.
Yeah.
So that was one, and a lot of people start with physical streaks of some sort because that's where I believe that we can get to very quickly. I can see and understand exercising at least 3 times a week very quickly. I can, and because all of us are concerned about our physical health to some degree or another.
We want to feel better,
that's Maslow's
have more energy.
hierarchy of needs. You know, you got to get food, you got to have shelter, you got to have mobility or physical health, those type of things. Interestingly, and I remember talking to Mark Washburn, who's the president of the Streak Runners International, or United States
Streak Runners
Running
Association.
Association, or Running Streak Association, which, by the way, they have a community in the app. So if you want to join that community and get inspired there, you can. He talked about how he never missed a day of work, and that he directly credits his running streak to maintaining good health.
Yep.
And that he had always have good health. Now, he said it's not a guarantee that something physical won't happen, because we also know from where we were inspired with Jeff and Diane Shumway that Jeff Shumway suffered something where he started his streak over.
Yeah, he had to start over because he had
abdominal surgery or something like that. So there's things. However, to a T, everyone that we've talked about that has a physical streak of some sort, that are doing laughably simple consistently every day or a certain number of times a week, they report higher levels of health.
Yep.
That they're healthy, and as that increases, you'll notice other things that you were suffering with decrease.
Yeah.
And you just see it. It's amazing. It's hard to believe, though, because you want to do something so, like what you said, big, bold, and beautiful, that it's difficult to think that it'll work. What I'm trying to think. I just had a thought in my brain. You and I were talking about this, and I was telling you about how I felt that I would go in ups and downs, like a roller coaster.
Yes.
What was I talking about? Do you remember? It was just this morning, I thought, as we were preparing for this. We're both... I'm looking to you to have the other half of my brain somewhere in there. It's not going to happen. It's there.
But I did love, as we talked to these, because these were 3 different answers that I felt that we got, 3 different people when we said, because I am streaking, fill in the blank.
Right.
And the one said, because I am streaking, I am drinking more water. Like, that's something I've always felt that I needed to do, and I'm doing it. And then another person said, because I am streaking, I'm having less muscle spasms, fewer muscle spasms, and less sick days at work. So he's seeing physical results from slow, consistent effort. And I think that's so important. Because then, and you had said something interesting too. You're like, there's no guarantee. However, there is something to be said about mentally knowing that you're putting effort towards it. Mm-hmm. You're like, well, I'm putting effort in this. I'm not making it worse.
The likelihood
that
you'll stay healthy goes way up. Yeah.
And that you're able to just have, and I think one of the things, so I had an interesting experience the other day, and maybe this relates a little bit to what you were saying about kind of that porpoising, is that I was feeling, I'm having a transition. So I'm transitioning from having lots of children at home and being super busy with children to not having as many children at home and trying to transition into a new place. So I've taken a course on productivity and planning, and I've been working with that, and it's been pretty good. But I was feeling frustrated the other day and was like, okay, I just need to visually see all the things I need to do in a day, and I want to chunk them into certain places so that I can lump the things that I'm doing together. And so I took some paper and Post-it notes, and I just wrote different categories that I want to focus on in my life, and started with the 4 basics, which are physical, spiritual, intellectual, and social was the 4 areas that I started to focus in. And then I took Post-it notes and wrote down all the things randomly that I need to do in a day. And I stuck it under one of those categories.
Right. So this is great. So I'm in my office and I have a break. And so I walk into our room, and on the wall,
the whole wall, I've commanded the whole wall.
Post-it notes are everywhere.
Under different categories.
But they're in these different categories. I'm like, hey, what's going
you
on?
doing?
She says, just trying to figure out my life.
That was it. I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out my life. So, but I want to tell you something that amazing happened, is that as I was writing everything down and putting it in a category, almost everything that I felt like I needed to be doing had a streak associated with it. There were a lot of things that in the past I'm like, oh, I should be doing this. And this time I was able to say, oh, I am doing that. And I'm doing that. And I'm doing that. And I recognized as I looked at these 4 categories of my life, and it was really, it was an amazing experience, because I was feeling like I was floundering. But when I got done and put everything up on the wall, I recognized that because of my streaks, I am doing almost all of the things that I've been wanting to do in some way. And I thought, wow, I'm actually using my time really well. I am transitioning into this new place, and I am trying to figure out what that means and what it's going to look like. But in the interim, I'm not floundering near as much as I felt like I was, which I thought was a really neat experience to look at it and be like, and I credit that completely to streaking.
Yeah.
Because I have streaks around all of those things. And I thought, well, I'm doing them. I'm doing those things consistently. So I'm not floundering as much as I feel like I am, which was a good thing to recognize. That's a little bit personal, but it was a neat experience.
A really neat experience.
And I think that's part of what happens as we ask people about, because I am streaking, you start to recognize that you're like, wow, because of streaking, I'm more courageous and I was able to talk to people, or I'm doing better with my kids, or wow, I'm actually developing these talents. It's slow, but it's steady.
What was intangible and making it tangible and being able to see the progress. I think that's a great note to end on. Mm-hmm. Streakers, if you want to follow along where Jami is in her streaks, you can do that by downloading the Streaking app and looking for her as a user, and you'll be able to see the streaks that she has. She also in the Discover page, you'll see when streaks are completed, which is fantastic, and we post from time to time. If you subscribe on the Streaking app and become a super streaker, you'll have access to additional content and a little bit of behind the scenes as we get ready for the podcast and other super streaking tips that we have along the way. So that's if you subscribe. If you'd like to get a hold of us or have a question, please reach out to us at our email address, Jeffrey, Jeffery, at thestreakingapp.com. A new one from what we were, but at thestreakingapp.com, or
Jami, Jami, at thestreakingapp.com.
Until we talk with you again,
keep streaking.
Better you.